Okay. Saakshi Tikku, about how she does this in India, right? Helping teens develop social emotional skills within their own communities is key to their success and happiness in life. Saakshi Tikku, a psychologist and educator in India, is going to discuss how the interventions and tools of positive psychology, including the VIA character strengths, can help students across all age groups. She will bring examples and stories from her work with students, teachers, and parents to show how these positive psychology tools can help build a more engaged, happier, and resilient student community. Saakshi has a master's degree in clinical psychology and is certified in reality therapy and choice therapy. She is a CIP graduate. CIP stands for Certificate in Positive Psychology, and has worked as a counselor in educational institutions for over 10 years. She uses the VIA character strengths in her practice with teens. Thank you for joining us. And now, welcome to the call, Saakshi.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here, Carolyn, right? Is that how I will pronounce your name?
Caroline.
Caroline, okay.
My niece and my nephews call me Auntie Line.
Caroline.
Yeah, of which I have many. You must have, do you have any nieces or nephews?
Nope.
No, I have, gosh, I have, how many? 4, 8, 10.
Wow.
Yes. And most of them, the youngest I think is 16. All of them are grown, right? Now let's also turn off our notifications. Let me do that. Do not disturb. I did that. And let me go into systems preferences, and I want to make sure I'm going to do that too.
Okay.
Notifications. Still seems like.
How am I to switch that off?
Are you on a Mac or a computer?
I'm on Dell computer.
Okay. So I
I doubt I'll get a notification.
Yeah.
But, let me see. Okay. I don't want to kind of mess with this right now. Something goes
Yeah, don't worry. I haven't heard any of them. Hey, Bunny, how you doing?
Namaste.
You're doing good. Yes, you can unmute yourself if you'd like.
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm not the one that it's midnight.
Where are you?
Saakshi. She's in India.
Yeah, I'm in India.
Now?
Yes.
That's pretty good. How'd you get there?
How to get there? Well, I am from here, so I didn't have to.
You are. But you're where now, Caroline?
I am in Pennsylvania, and we've had a couple of trees down, but we're still with power. I know that Phoebe is not with power, so she may or may not join us today because of so many people are without power right now because of the storm.
All of Connecticut. I have family and I have a property in Connecticut. No power. Nothing.
Wow.
And my son lives in Jersey. No power.
Oh,
crazy.
One in New York, one in Westchester. No power.
Yeah. So what we might find, Saakshi, is that people will want to be on the call, might not be able to get on the call. So
sure.
the recording will be just as important, you know. So that's why we'll do that.
Yeah, I can understand.
And you're in India. Isn't that fabulous?
Yeah.
It's also been raining. It's also been raining in some parts here. And where I'm originally from, Mumbai, it's been underwater in the past 2 days. So,
so you're worried about flooding?
Yes, in Mumbai. But currently, I'm in a different state because I work in a different place in India. So I'm closer to the hills. I'm in North India. I'm closer to the Himalayas.
Now, I'm going
But,
to have to ask you when I ask you for the questions, how you found out about the SIP training.
I will, and that's exactly why I have that slide with my story with positive psychology and being in
Okay,
kids.
good.
Quite interesting. If you
Okay.
believe in karmic forces,
Sure,
and
why not?
yeah, so it's
Right,
I'm
Bunny?
a very strong believer of that. So
Yeah, whatever. Like it's
Did you say Phoebe's in Pennsylvania?
no, she is in Long Island.
Florida.
Is it hard to hear me, Bunny? Or is it good?
No, I'm good.
Okay, well, because I have a new system on, so I didn't know if it was, that's why
You're
I'm
in
asking.
Pennsylvania.
I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in Pennsylvania. She's in Long Island. Megan's, I think, in Massachusetts. Hey, Erica, how are you? You can unmute.
Hi, everybody. I'm in
hi.
Guatemala, which is the city next to Mexico City.
Oh, wow.
And I'm very excited to hear you all today, to learn.
Oh, great, great.
Excited
Now,
to
does
see you.
anybody work with teens? I'm just curious.
I do.
Oh, you do?
I
Great.
do. I do a lot of career counseling with kids, and I use the VIA character signature strengths. And so I'm just eager to figure out different ways to use it.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
So thank you for doing this. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Well,
It's
and
my
thank you
pleasure.
for,
I'm just
Yeah.
here to learn mutually. I guess we can all share and learn from each other.
humility must be in your top strengths too.
Allow me to say.
So what has everybody done their character strengths? Like, what are your top strengths, Erica? I'm curious.
A love for learning, creativity, and judgment.
Oh, good. I'm just
Curiosity.
Great.
And I don't know the fifth one. I have it here. Love of, an appreciation of beauty and excellence.
Great. And then how about you, Saakshi?
So fairness is my top strength. It has been my top strength every time I take the VIA inventory. So I'm hoping that something else will come out, but it is always fairness that tops everything for me. And then I do have a perspective. I have kindness.
Beautiful.
And I have, I just took it the other day. I have one more. I can get back to you on that. 1 second. I have it with me somewhere right here. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just looking. Phoebe just was wishing us good luck.
Thank you. Very important. And I do have creativity. Creativity has moved up for me, actually. It was not always in my top 5, top 10 strengths. So I'm happy about that. And hope and gratitude. Yes.
Hope and gratitude. Gosh, we have such similar strengths. And what about you, Bunny?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question. I was off on the clock.
your VIA strengths. What are your VIA strengths? Top strengths.
My what?
Your top strengths from the VIA.
So many top strengths and so many negative strengths. Not negative, but low strengths.
But did you take the VIA strengths assessment?
No.
Oh my goodness. Well, you're in for a treat. It takes about, I don't know, 10 minutes. You just go to the viastrengths.org and it will do it for you. Hi, Issy. Welcome.
I will do it when we're finished.
Yeah. That's what we've been talking about when people talk about like the VIA strengths assessment and.
But maybe I lost it for a minute.
No.
No, I don't do that. I'm not there yet.
Yeah, so it's a free survey and it's a fun thing and you can take it once a year for free. Now, I'm thinking what's going to be interesting about the teens. My question is, do they do what we just did, which is, oh, I hope that my top strengths change, I think it's pretty normal. Do you know where they say, well, but why do I have prudence as my top strength?
So yeah, I mean, it does happen with a few students. You know, I distinctly remember one of the students, his
Hey,
top
Christine.
strength was love for learning. And he's like, what am I going to do with that? I mean, what do I do? I mean, I'm a student. I am supposed to learn. So like, you know, what's the big deal?
Yeah. Yeah, versus, you know, realizing what a strength was. And then I don't know if this happened to you, but I recently retook my strengths and they moved around a little bit, but I was like, but I liked the old one, you know.
Yeah, it
I
can
liked
happen.
having, yeah. So, but
I think one of the things that happens with my kids is leadership comes in the lower ones. And so they get really stressed out that how can it be? And so you have to go through a whole thing about how leaders can be different. I don't know if that it resonates with your part of the world, but they get stressed out that leadership is on the bottom.
Right.
Hey, Dr. Sherry Kelly is in the house.
So
Gosh, I've
usually,
been thinking about you, girl. How are you? You can unmute yourself. We got a few minutes. How are you doing? Oh, wait, you're on mute. Dr. Shelley has been one of our presenters a couple of times.
Yes.
And her husband is a first responder, and she's down in, you're in Miami, right?
I'm in Boca.
Boca. So how's it going down there?
It's busy. It's still really busy. There's a lot of uncertainty still about school, which is causing a lot of anxiety amongst the families I work with.
Sure.
And a lot of anxiety with also with parents who are on the front lines because they can't get childcare, and if school doesn't start, they can't. Some of my friends can't work. They're nurses and they can't work because there's no childcare.
Yeah, there's even some talk about having school for the kids of essential workers. You know, it's crazy. It's a crazy time. So
yeah, it's a lot. The people are going through a lot, and so that's why I'm really looking forward to this workshop or this webinar today. Such relevant information.
Yeah, no, we're excited and wait to see the PowerPoint. I'm going to be running it, so I know that it's good.
okay, I'm just praying I match expectation.
Oh, you are so funny.
Hey,
I was
Debbie, hi.
Oh
She's
my
from
gosh.
my SIP group.
Oh,
Yeah,
yay. I want you to feel that love, Saakshi. I want you to feel that love. Saakshi is coming to us all the way from India. It's about midnight.
No,
There.
it's not really midnight. A few hours to go to midnight.
In a few hours. Okay. So what is it, like 10 o'clock or something?
Yeah, it's around 9:30. 9:30.
Oh, 9:30. Okay. All right. So that's not too bad. I don't know.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, it's 12 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody for the recording. And then, Saakshi, you will have to unmute yourself. And then I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Let me just make sure that our recording is on. Yes, it is. So we'll begin. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Caroline Colas. I am the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. Today, we are going to be talking about how to use character strengths with teens with Saakshi Tikku. The Marlene Meyerson has partnered with the Whole Being Institute throughout the pandemic to provide lunch and learn conversations every Tuesday and Thursday from noon to 1 with experts in the field of positive psychology. When we're talking about character strength with teens, they actually help them develop social and emotional skills. And Saakshi is going to show us how to do that because it is the key to their success and happiness in life. She is a psychologist and an educator in India, and she's going to discuss how the interventions and tools of positive psychology, including the VIA character strengths, can help students across all age groups. She'll bring examples and stories from her work with students, teachers, and parents to show us today how these positive psychology tools can help build a more engaged, happier, and resilient student community. We certainly need that. Her degree is in clinical psychology, and she's certified in reality therapy and choice therapy. She is a CIP graduate. CIP stands for Certificate in Positive Psychology, and she has worked as a counselor in educational institutions for over 10 years. She uses the VIA character strengths in her practice with teens. Welcome to the call, Saakshi. Thank you so much for being here. I think you have to unmute your
namaste, and I'm very, very pleased to be here amidst all of you. And thank you, Caroline, for having me here. And I hope it is a fruitful 1 hour. Yeah, and I'm really happy and a little nervous. Yeah.
Well, no need to be nervous. You're among friends, and we're all interested in learning from you today. We're in that situation, at least in America, and perhaps it's in other places around the world, where our school's going to be open, our education is changing. Some of it might be half online. In some places, it might be entirely online. So learning how to provide resilience and these positive psychology tools seems to be very timely right now. Should we get right into it? Do you want me to put your slides up?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, let's get some context for kind of your discussion today, and then we'll open it up for Q&A.
Sure.
Let me just share my screen. Can you see that? Is that up?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Saakshi.
All right. So these are a few pointers about myself. One, I'm from India. I'm a therapist, and like I was introduced, I do a lot of work in social emotional learning with the students. In my experience, I have worked with students from preschool to grade 12 and even university students at one point in my time. My top VR strength is fairness. Every time I take it, it's fairness. That's my #1 strength. I love animals and greenery. I am happily married. I am a big foodie. I love food and I love experimenting with food. I am certified in choice theory and reality therapy. I am an eternal optimist, sometimes delusionally optimistic, but I like being that way. Yeah. So that's about me. So
beautiful.
Yeah, get the next slide. All right. So I have this slide here to talk about how I came to know about the Whole Being Institute and my journey with positive psychology. So I'm not sure how many of you believe in, the karmic cycle and like everything happens for a reason. And when you meet people, it's for a reason. So I was actually on vacation in Kerala, which is in South India. In an Ayurvedic resort, and I just happened to have a very nice neighbor. Her name is Alexandra, and she is from Belgium. And we got talking and we got pally, and she's a coach and a trainer. And she found out I'm interested in positive psychology, and she said, "Hey, have you heard of the Whole Being Institute?" And I said, "No." So she gave me the information, and she had already done the course. And she really reviewed it very highly. So that's it. It was there that I registered for it right then and there. And that's how my journey began with the Whole Being Institute. So it's quite amazing. Yeah.
That is amazing. And we know I'm actually in the certificate for positive psychology right now. And there is going to be, they're opening up a new section for next year. And we'll have some information if people are interested in signing up for that.
Right. So, so exactly, how that course works, and the group that is formed, we become really close, working together, and it's just a wonderful journey. So, I just wanted to set the Indian context a little bit. I was not sure how many of you have visited India or have heard about it, but India has a lot of diversity in everything, whether it is culture, whether it's food. So I have the Indian cuisine map with all the states. Every state has its own cuisine. And on the other side, the map is talking about languages, and every state has its own language. And even in every state, there are individual dialects which differ from the main language. So just wanting to bring to the forefront that, especially if you're working in an educational setting, and currently I am working in a boarding setting, and we have students from all over the country and a few NRI students as well. So one really has to be mindful of the context that one is setting, and even when you're saying things or doing things, to be very, very careful about the cultural diversity that a country like India brings in, because every state has its own cultures, own rituals, and it's really important to take care of that when we are teaching, or when we are even discussing things. So, and also another point I would like to make is that VR strengths is universal. And that's the beauty of the character strengths. And like we know, research has also been conducted in India with that sample size. So in that sense, I think it is very befitting to an audience which is so culturally diverse, and the character strengths in itself take care of the cultural diversity and the linguistic diversity. And that's also what I wanted to kind of just set the context. Yeah. So next, if we can. All right. So this is just a snapshot of what I thought I could share with all of you. So I was going to talk about strength-based stories that I have used, then the gift of gratitude, growing a growth mindset, having mindful moments, so using mindfulness. How am I working in terms of creating or cultivating creativity in my students, promoting perspective, and then I'm going to share examples from experience in terms of therapy, because I also do therapy and I also teach, so this works both ways. So this is just like a snapshot. Next. Okay, great. So yeah, power of stories. So how I'd like to begin is, I'm sure all of you agree that stories are extremely powerful. It's a very, very powerful medium. When children share stories, or when they create their stories, it kind of really brings out many times things that they're not able to verbalize otherwise. Yeah, that's the assignment. So when I want to talk about stories, I'll talk about two different sections. So in India, we now have the International Baccalaureate Board, which is the IB board. And the primary section in the IB board is called the Primary Years Program. So the PYP is the short form. Now, PYP has its own attitudes, which they try and instill as part of the course and the board that we are following. So some of their attitudes are confidence, cooperation, empathy, integrity, curiosity, creativity. So what I did was that I had asked students to kind of go through this list of attitudes that already exists for them. Because if you see, there is a direct overlap with the VR strengths. And choose for themselves any moment that they displayed any one of those characteristics and come up with a story for that. So what that did was, one, obviously it made children reflect. And this I'm talking about from third grade onwards, so grade 3, 4, 5. they were able to kind of really write and or pictorially depict and then explain their stories. But what it also did actually helped me in therapy, because younger children tend to project very easily. So when you look at some of the stories, and sometimes you would see things like maybe some shades of violence or some shades of sibling rivalry, something would come up in some of those stories. So what it also helped me do was identify students who I thought would then require more emotional support through the stories that they shared. So it was definitely highlighting when they were empathetic or when they displayed integrity. But in those stories, many times, there were also hints that I could pick up on, which helped me in theory. Now, coming to, teens and tweens, so what we did with them was that I shared with them the list, the VIA list. And again, I asked them to think of the time, we have your best self, the version, my best self version. So pick any one strength that they thought they demonstrated, and they kind of built a story around that. So for example, I had this student who very nicely, and I told them to prepare a storyboard. So they had to make 6 slides with pictures and things like that. So very interestingly, he wrote that, I was, I had a fight with my friend, and things like, when we're not talking, this, that, but then I used perspective. So I thought about why my friend would be so upset and angry with me. And I looked at things from his perspective. And that's how then we decided to communicate, and I apologized and I understood, and now we are friends. So examples like this really kind of gave me the belief that it really helps, it works, and it helps building a more positive community, where children are able to understand, empathize, and look for what the other person may be thinking, and just being very self-centered and only thinking about themselves. So this is just one of the examples, and like there are many such stories that students wrote about learning a particular skill, and the teacher said, oh, you cannot do it, it is very difficult. And the student said, no, but it was my love of learning that I persevered, and I did not stop. And it was a really difficult song I was trying. And he said 3 months down the line, I could play it. So so things like that really, really kind of motivate me to use VR more and more in my practice. So if we can quickly go to the next slide. Now, since I am an educator, I cannot, go without asking the audience to do something. So in this entire presentation, you're going to have these bits called pause and ponder. And I would really appreciate if the audience can participate in the chat box so that it is more interactive. So I would request you to share your lockdown story in 6 words. Now, this is a concept taken from Larry Smith and a colleague of his. And this is really interesting. So if you had to summarize your lockdown story in 6 words, what would it sound like, look like? So if you can, I can type in my story, if that would give you an example. So my story is lockdown with family, absolute blessing, and I'm grateful. So I'm just going to, 1 second.
So I'm stopping to share for a second so I can check the chat.
Okay.
All right.
So you can take some time, think about what are the 6 words that, okay.
Well, Lori has Zoom, gardening, cooking, communication, sharing.
Excellent.
Joni, interaction, sons, meal prep, gratitude, listening.
Great.
And we have a few more coming in. I'll write down.
Continued learning, connecting, family, new friends. I like that one, Beth. Ups, downs, eating, moving, sleeping, blessed.
This is fun. It's very creative.
Yeah, for you, yourself, second honeymoon, creative work, bliss at home. I like that.
Yeah. We celebrated our 20-year wedding anniversary on Zoom. It was hilarious. It was really a lot of fun. Oh, someone said, Nancy, I love it. Zoom, 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 zoom. It's great.
That's
so stories
creative.
are really important. All right, let me go back to our share on the screen.
Great. Thank you so much for kind of really. So, you see the experience for yourself, right? And it is also, in a way, it makes you pause and think. It really makes you pause and think. Yeah. Am I audible? Oh. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it really makes you pause and think, and it gives you so many of you like have responded, and it immediately gives me an insight into your life. Like I don't have to have a long conversation with you. Just those 6 words in itself are bringing out some of your strengths right there. So that's how I, so again, you have sunshine, family, far away, FaceTime, exercise. Great. I think Andrea shared that. So this is, again, a way that can be used, especially with teens, because sometimes they really don't like to write too much or type too much. So the shorter you keep, the better it is and the more engaged they are. And maybe you can do it multiple times and you can have different themes. So you can work around this and have different themes and, use something like this. So can we go on to the next?
Sure. It strikes me as it would be a great dinner conversation too. If you have like a family gathering or a FaceTime event
Absolutely.
with family, you could do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is something that can be used with any age group, frankly speaking. So I'm using it with children, but you can use it with any age group. The power of gratitude. Okay, there is a lot that is, been said about gratitude, and there's umpteen number of research that talks about how, gratitude does not only help the person who's receiving it, but it also helps the person who is being grateful and giving thanks. So something we did with our middle school students is we got a sheet made with all the teacher names on it, and we distributed this to every student in the 8th grade. And we asked them, we gave them a template and we said, for every teacher, you write exactly what you're thankful for. And be specific in giving an example. So just don't say, I'm thankful for, teaching me. So be very specific. So give a specific example of what you are grateful for. And then what we did was we created these mail bags for all the teachers. So after the students wrote, our team got together, we segregated the slips and we filled in for every teacher. We wrote their name and we presented these to the teachers. And the look on their faces when they were reading what the students had written for them was absolutely priceless. Absolutely priceless. because there's so many times that, and I don't know if it is actually an Indian thing, I don't really know that, but many times, you know, we don't really express what we feel. I mean, I love you, you love me, I know that, but nobody's saying I love you. It is understood or it's taken for granted. And similarly, similar things happen even in education, where a student really values the teacher or the input given by the teacher, but unless and until it is teacher's day, or unless and until the child is graduating from the class, you know, that it's never verbalized per se that easily. So this is what we did, but very interestingly, I must share with you. So once the teachers got this, I had a few teachers who turned around and told me, okay, this is all the good stuff. Where's the bad stuff? So I'm like, what do you mean? I said, no, but this is all like good feedback. But what about things that I need to improve? And, you know, so like, you know, I just told them, there is only good right now. Just accept it and be like grateful. You don't always have to have constructive criticism come in with something positive. So that was very interesting, because this again highlights the fact that, you know, the negativity bias that we possess, it is so difficult, even as adults, to accept pure compliments or something that's good. Immediately the thought that will come, okay, so but what's not going right? What's wrong? How do I fix that? And even for students, that is why it is important to get them to understand, to have a lens of gratitude, to kind of look at that lens and be grateful for what they have. And so there are also, when we go further in the slides, I'll share with you, there's another practice that I do in therapy, which I think has really helped students who are able to kind of follow that practice. But yeah, that's what I had with reference to gratitude letter. Okay. So again, like I said, since I'm an educator, if I could request the audience to type in something that you are grateful for in the past 24 to 48 hours and why. Because scientifically, if we add meaning to why we are grateful, it has a higher impact for us and it helps building the upward spiral, right? So if I can request, okay, something you're grateful for in the past 24 to 48 hours. So I'm going to type, I am grateful for good internet connection. Yeah, that's what I'm absolutely grateful for right now.
I had a wonderful educator say that this is where the word because can actually be helpful in accessing the why, right? So
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my internet access as well, and for living with a 24-year-old. My niece is living with me because she's able to teach me how to use it. And when something goes wrong, she's really good at fixing it. So
True.
that's my gratitude.
So, right, we have responses coming in. So I think Erica says, I'm grateful for my children, cooking lunch yesterday, great pasta, wow. And then I think Kathy is grateful for the support of friends and wonderful weather to enjoy the outdoors. And Alan, is that how we pronounce it? Yeah, 1 second. Great.
Yeah.
We have a very enthusiastic and participative audience, I must say. My daughter's English teacher, and then we have Nancy, grateful for wonderful friends who send me lovely birthday cards to me because I couldn't be with them. How sweet, how sweet. Wow, Vicky is talking about the time and care the salesman at the decorator shop took with him yesterday, because I came away with a clear idea of what I needed to do. Even sold me anything. Wow. Listening to a writer, my husband smiled because it uplifts me. just when you're reading people typing, that in itself brings in so much positivity and positive emotions that there is no way that you're not going to, feel all those emotions, and and it really kind of brings up that upward spiral that I was talking about. And obviously, like since you're doing the course, it's, they talk about, when you appreciate the good appreciates, right? So it is so important to be appreciative. And I think with teens, especially with the way society is conditioned, and especially because teenagers are giving a lot of their board exams, and they have board years, and they have college preparation and university, a lot of the focus is on, getting everything right, and doing things the right way, and perfection, and things like that. So it is really important then to bring this concept in, for them to say, okay, world is not perfect. This is what I have. What can I do? What is the best I can do with what I have, and what can I be grateful for? That becomes really important for this age group in particular, because of a lot of pressure that already exists. Yeah, when you appreciate the good appreciates, totally. So, and also there is this, the concept of being a benefit finder. That again is part of something that I learned in the Whole Being Institute, where you're accepting what has happened as a matter of fact, and then you're making the best of what has happened. So it is not to say that nothing bad will happen, but how do you become a benefit finder instead of a fault finder? So how do you do that? And one way of doing that is being grateful and looking at what is going right. Okay, so thank you so much for all the responses. I'm very grateful. Yes. Okay, so moving on, growth mindset. Again, since I know we do have quite a few educators on the group, I'm sure they're aware of this concept, but just in case this is a new concept for you, a growth mindset is the concept given by Dr. Carol Dweck. This is what the book looks like, a mindset. And the basic premise is that there are two kinds of mindset. So either people have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. The difference being that in growth mindset, your intelligence and abilities can be developed, people who demonstrate growth mindset, whereas people who demonstrate fixed mindset, for them, intelligence and ability is static. It is something you're born with, and then you live with it. There is nothing you can do about it. So if you just give me the permission, I'd just like to read, a little bit from the book. And it says that growth mindset also doesn't mean everything can happen. Everything that can be changed should be changed. We all need to accept some of our imperfections, especially the ones that we don't really harm our lives or lives of others. So basically what it is saying is that it is not that everything we have to change because we have a growth mindset. Certain things we cannot change, but we don't need to change if it is not impacting our lives or the lives of others. But I think the crucial point here is that in a fixed mindset, everything is about the outcome. And I think this is a really crucial point, especially when we're dealing with teenagers. Because if you fail or if you're not your best, it's all been wasted. But in the growth mindset, allows people to value what they're doing regardless of the outcome. And that is where I want to really draw your attention to. Because with teenagers, they are, for them, and even I think when I talk about growth mindset, I usually begin by training the adults in the community, because it's the language that the adults are using that impacts these teenagers and children the most. So that is why whenever we have a parent-teacher meetings and whenever we have an opportunity to interact with parents, this is exactly what we want to educate them about. How are you really praising your child? What are the words you are using to praise your child? Because another aspect of this concept is that if you are coming from a fixed mindset, then you are saying things like, oh, you are so smart, right? Or you are so intelligent, which in turn gives the message to the child that, you know, I cannot fail. Like every time I have to be perfect or do a certain thing, then, and if I cannot do it, then I won't do it. So they don't really take up challenges. So if you see on the right hand side, fixed mindset, there are children who will start avoiding challenges. They don't like criticism. And this whole concept, which I think, Malcolm Gladwell kind of highlighted, which is also mentioned in this book, that as a society, we don't really value effort. It's more about the outcome. So who's a smart kid? Someone who studied so less and still scored like, you know, an A grade or an A plus. And then we go, oh my God, you're so smart. But that's not true actually. The fact being that it is the effort that counts, because the moment you tell a child, oh, you are smart because you got these marks and you studied less, it's giving them the message that, you know, I am what I am because of these marks, and if I cannot get these marks, then I'm not smart enough. That's the kind of messaging that then goes to the child. So when you're praising them, this is again a parent's guide to growth mindset. You're looking for effort, strategies, hard work, and you're not really saying, you know, about talent and, you know, being smart or you're born gifted. And again, extremely important, the power of yet. So whenever a child says, I can't do this, the whole idea is you can't do it yet. Does not mean that you can never do it. And I think the same holds true even for adults. If I can't do something now, it's not that I can never do it. It's just that I haven't got the hang of it yet. And I think that's really powerful. And it is also important for the adults, whether you're educators or parents, to recognize your own thinking pattern and to understand, you know, how were you praised when you were a child? And how do you praise your children? What is the language and the words that you are using? So what is that mindset that you are bringing in? And it's not that you cannot change. If you want to, there are umpteen resources that you can change. But I think the whole task begins with recognition. First, recognizing that you're coming from a fixed mindset. So yeah, if you can go to the next slide, please. Okay. So these are again some of the reflection questions. When I start to feel like quitting, what will I do in that moment to kind of persevere? What am I saying or doing to myself that is holding me back? Imagine how you would feel when you accomplish something that's really challenging, and, you know, describe that feeling. What is the biggest mistake you've ever made and what did it teach you? So again, some of these I definitely use in practice, in therapy practice, to help students identify where they are coming from. But I think a lot of this work is very, very helpful if the adults start speaking the language and giving the message that it is the effort that counts. So also something I don't know again if it is just in India, but a very typical thing that students would come and tell me is that, you know, when they get a report card. So if mathematics is, 99 on 100, and if chemistry is 95 on 100, and English is 80 on 100, the first question parents ask, why did you get an 80 in English? Like, what went wrong? And nobody's really talking about, the 99 and the 95. Oh, but because you are good at math and chemistry any which way. So like, let's not talk about that bit. What happened in English? So the automatic focus is on the outcome. So that is where this really helps. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Again, This is something that I very actively use in helping students in trying to change their thought process once we identify. So if they're saying I'm not good at this, instead of that, asking, what am I missing? Are there certain strategies that somebody else is using? Because another challenge that I face is comparison. They're all comparing all the time. All the time, because it's so competitive that they're just, who's going to which university, who's getting what grades, and this one got. And so because of that, it's coming from that fixed mindset kind of mentality. So when I want to give up, can I use a different strategy? Do I know how much effort the other person is putting? Can I ask that person what worked for them and try that out? It's not good enough. I mean, is this really my best work? I can't make this any better. I can always improve. I made a mistake. Mistakes help me learn. This is another important aspect. I'm not sure, but I love to hear from any of you who are working with children. What is their take on making mistakes? Anybody who'd like to type in? How do students really respond to making mistakes? Okay, opportunities to go back and see, okay, what they can improve. All right. Parents' mistakes from earlier in 19-month-old thought the number. I learned a mistake, okay. So yeah, so when we're talking about mistakes, okay, what hurt you the most about the mistake? Okay, automatic reaction is self-criticism. I get a lot of that, Kathy. Like, there's something called ANTS. I'm not sure if you, so I was reading the other day, and it's like an acronym, and it stands for automatic negative thoughts. It's called ANTS. So self-criticism is something that comes naturally. And then, yes, I'm afraid to try again. So, when we're saying afraid to try and that you'll be disappointed, and it's all coming from the fixed mindset belief system that, there needs to be perfection. And if it's not perfect, it's not worth it. It's all a waste. So it really helps. And when you're saying, frustrating and I'm dumb, again, you see the kind of messaging that is coming. This is all fixed mindset conversation. So this concept of growth mindset is really helpful. And if you can educate, yeah, I mean, if you can educate them, there's nothing like it. I have really seen changes, and I have had students coming back and saying, and it's not even about saying, in therapy, sometimes when you say something and it clicks and the response is like, that light bulb moment. They'll have that, oh, I didn't really think of it like this, or I did not even kind of realize that something like this could be done or said. So I think that's really, and this one, plan A didn't work, there's always plan B. It's a very interesting quotation which says, thank God English has 26 alphabets, right? So if A does not work, B does not work, you have C, D, E, F to kind of go on to. So if I can have the next slide, please. Okay. So again, if I can request you to type in, whenever you have felt like quitting, okay, or when you feel like quitting, what is it that you can do in that moment to persevere for yourself? For yourself. So this question is in relation to you. When you start to feel like quitting, what will you do in that moment to persevere? If you had to think of the growth mindset. And if you had to come from the growth mindset perspective, okay, let's see, we are getting responses. Okay, reframe something to make it less overwhelming. Yes, Deb. Okay, remind myself of the value of what I'm doing, especially if it's doing others. Excellent. Look at my character strengths. Yes, that's always a go-to, always. And actually that reminds me, when I first took the VIA a few years ago and fairness came up, I realized that every time in my life, whenever I was upset or something troubled me really deeply, it was because my top strength was getting violated because I was not using that. And it was such a light bulb moment for me at that time, because it was suddenly something I found, because I would wonder, why am I getting so upset about these things? That's because fairness was my strength. So every time I saw somebody not being treated equally, or if something was happening where, people were not able to, empathize and things, I would really get upset. And now I know why that used to happen. So yeah. So think of, give myself a time limit. I will do it for 5 more minutes. Excellent. Look at my life's mission statement to remind myself of my why. Wow. Take a time break, connect with someone and come back. Excellent. All excellent. Pause and do something and go back to things again. Step back. Wow. It's really a pleasure reading all these responses, and thank you for being so participative. So Joanne says, stop a minute, connect with others through movement. That's again another thing that I've learned in the course was, the fastest way to get happy is to exercise. Just move. Just move. That's the fastest way that you can release those hormones and, get back up. So, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. So when we talk about mindfulness and the power of mindfulness, so this is something I have been experimenting with for quite some time. It has worked in some cases it has not worked. So I'm being very honest and upfront about it. With certain students it works, with certain students it does not work. But what did work really well with me was, if anyone is a middle school teacher, okay, in this, or if you've dealt with middle school children, and if you're dealing with boys who are in middle school, it can be quite challenging to get them all in one place and have some kind of, decorum per se. So I did this class wherein we went for a mindful walk. So I'm blessed to be on a beautiful campus where I am right now, 74 acres of land actually. So I took them on this walk, and my instructions to them were that they need to look for 4 different shapes, 3 different colors, 2 different textures, and 1 smell. So they had these instructions with them. And when they actually went for that walk, I could actually notice and see that they were so involved and engrossed, and the kind of feedback that I got from the students was amazing. Like, I remember the student telling me, "Ma'am, I never realized that this tree had red fruits. I mean, I have been crossing this path for like 3 years now, or 2 years now, and I never noticed this." And then we have eucalyptus trees, and the leaves had fallen. So some students came and they rubbed those leaves, and they were going around kind of making everybody smell. So again, the whole idea of they've been here for so long and they've not noticed so many things. So yeah, could you mention the 5, 4, 3 things you asked for? Yeah, sure. So I asked for 5 different shapes, five different shapes. Then I asked for 4 different colors. Hopefully I'm getting this right. Yeah. 4 different colors. I asked them for texture. I think that was 2 textures. I asked them for one smell, to look for one smell. I don't know if I mentioned sound. I also asked them for sound. I mean, you can work this in terms of however it suits your audience, but it is just to kind of give them some structure, because I've seen that with younger students, structure is really important. Structure, you can't just let them go and then, they're running all over the place. They don't know what to do. And when they came back from this walk, I already had placed sheets like this, which had coloring. These are mindful coloring, diagrams. And I had sketch pens for them. So I was just playing light music and they came back, and I cannot begin to tell you how blissfully quiet the class was. It was like magic. So books like, so I have this book with me here. So, books like these, which have like, a lot of, so there are different types. So I have flowers and animals and things like that. It's available. And it was so, and the feedback that I got from students was, ma'am, this was one of the best classes we've had. And I'm like, yay, finally mindfulness is working, yay. And then what I also did was that I would use 1 minute of mindfulness to begin my class. So as the students came in, I had told them that they need to kind of settle down, and I gave them the posture and I would play music, and they would kind of close their eyes, and then I would have some script that I would be, talking about. So, be grateful, or, something like that. Think of a person you want to say thank you to, or just be happy. So things like that. And that also worked really well for students. Sorry, there is a question, I think. Them. Yes. So I did mention to them that what they were doing was going to be a mindful walk, because I had to tell them not to talk. However, that was the tricky part. There were some who did listen and some who did not. But overall, it was a successful experience. So if we can just go to the next slide, because I have to be mindful of time. Okay. So again, creativity and perspective. This is something that I've been trying really hard to inculcate in my students, especially because tweens and teens sometimes have this myopic vision. When they get stuck, they just get stuck to one thing. And if they're looking at certain things, they're only looking at things with that myopic vision. So it's important for them to see the bigger picture and the larger picture. And that is where building perspective is really helpful for teenagers. So if you can have the next slide, please. Okay, so something I did with my students was that I showed them a tissue box, this is for creativity, and told them, okay, what are other uses of a box like this? I mean, it's not a tissue box anymore. What can you use it for? So one of the most popular responses I got, I can use it to hide my candies and nobody will find out, or, keep stationery and things like that. And some converted it into other things. So things like this, helping them think and, be creative. This other image is about perspective. And, it is just like, this image is called the leaves perspective. So if you see, it's, I also did things with them wherein I told them, okay, take a regular object, flip it upside down, and what do you see? And I had amazing responses from students, from someone telling me my gaming consoling, my gaming control can make faces. So it can make happy faces, sad faces when I kind of play with it. So it has emotions. To someone telling me, if I overturn the vase, it looks like a mushroom. To someone telling me, oh, if I kind of flip the dart, it looks like a flower. So such beautiful responses really makes me happy. Right. So if we can have the next slide, please. Symbol. Another thing I did with my students was having them introduce themselves with a symbol. And oh boy, the creativity was like touch the roof. So I had students who had a picture of a spring, saying, I'm like a spring, the more you try and press me, the stronger I will bounce back. It also helped identify students' strengths. wherein students, if they like sports, then they had something with sports to symbolize them. If they like music, they had something with music. So this also gave me an insight into strengths and helped them also come up with creative ideas. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so this is something that I do in therapy. For gratitude, I have seen that gratitude journal has been really effective for students who love writing and who like to document. That has been very helpful. The other thing is self-compassion. What I also focus on is when we talk about the ideal self, your best self, what are things you like in yourself? Again, strength spotting, teaching them how to spot strengths in themselves and also in others, which is helpful. The other thing with teenagers is identity. And I think that's a really big one. There is a lot of confusion sometimes around identity. Who am I? Where am I going? And positive psychology has really kind of helped, especially character strengths have helped in kind of helping them identify who they are and where they want to go. This is about a jigsaw puzzle, and this is really interesting, wherein I asked students to kind of fill in whatever's going well in their lives in all the jigsaw pieces, and that one piece is where they write what the problem is. So whenever they have a problem, that's just one piece of the puzzle. They have the other puzzle to look at, okay, what everything else that's working for me. So this jigsaw perspective is really, really helpful in bringing out, certain aspects. The last one is where I have the web is basically about metaphors. And I have seen that metaphors are really powerful. And when I use positive psychology and VR strengths with students, I have had students after therapy coming up with their own metaphors of how they've, survived and become resilient. So I think that is also very helpful. So if I can have the next slide. Okay. This is my go-to image, with teenagers. And sometimes you just give this to them and you don't have to say anything else. They just comprehend what you're trying to tell them. Things that, I can control and things that I cannot control. So let's look at your strengths, and with your strengths, let's focus on what you can control, because otherwise you're just banging your head on the wall and you're going to hurt yourself. Right, next please. Yeah. These are my go-to quotations. Life's under no obligation to give us what we expect, by Margaret Mitchell. And I think I learned this lesson very early in life, that life's not fair, so deal with it. And why should it be fair in the first place? You get what you get and make the most of what you get. And the second one that I have that is very useful is Viktor Frankl. Everything can be taken away from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And this is from his book, Man's Search for Meaning. Again, a book that I highly recommend older senior students to read, because it just has so much about resilience and, how can you really kind of, you are the person in the driving seat. So you are driving your car and you decide which direction it goes in. Yeah, and so I mean, if you could just type in one thing that you might want to try or explore further in terms of whatever I have shared, if anything you found interesting, something you want to know more about, anything at all. Yeah, that's it from me. Actually, I'm done. And if you can just go to the next slide. I kind of usually like to add the previous one. I usually like to add humor, and I think it really works really, really well. So it's a winner. It's a total winner with teenagers. I remember doing a presentation on teamwork, and my first slide was a slide from the Hangover movie. And oh boy, what a start to the session. So this always works. Yeah. So thank you so much. And if you can, that's my contact. If you'd like to get in touch, I would love to stay connected with anybody who wants to. That's my ID and my LinkedIn profile. Right. And yeah, these are some of the resources that are used with children. So feel free to, there are many more. This is just something that I had. And these are all my references. I'm very careful. All the images, everything I've taken, it's all here because I think it's really important to give credit to people who have done that work. I have just kind of fixed it all in. Oh, somebody's lived in Chandigarh as a child. Wow, that's a great town. Kathy, I think. Yeah, so.
Wow, so amazing. And there's some wonderful comments in the chat. Thanks all for this great session. Thank you, my dear Saakshi. Wonderful presentation. Lovely to see you again and learn from you.
Thank you.
Gratitude, that was great. Thank you. I loved the way that you engaged us in writing our own thoughts. And I think what I learned today is about the fixed mindset too, a little bit more about how I might even do that with myself and what I can do when I'm being frustrated with technology and learning new things.
Right.
And
it's a great book actually. If you can get hold of the book, Mindset, it's a great read for parents, teachers, anyone who is more interested in it.
Yeah, fantastic. And please strength spot Saakshi and just let her know, if you haven't already, just how much we appreciate her. I think we need to just take care of all our educators, right? My thought is, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For
Hi, I can see Sharon. She was also in my SIP program. Hi, Sharon.
Yes. And Dr. Sherry Kelly is on the call, and she's saying, she was saying that even when we have gratitude, it actually changes the neurochemicals in our brain.
Right.
And I thought that was wonderful. And someone put on there a quote by Tal Ben-Shahar that was about failure to fail. Where was
Learn
that?
Learn to fail
or fail to learn.
Yes.
I thought that was, amazing. So everybody, if you have been, your power has been knocked out due to the storm, you're in a learning curve, right? Learning how to get the things that you need. And the pandemic has put us there as well. So that's why we have these lunch and learns. So I hope there's been something inspiring. Thank you so much for, calling in all the way from India. And next week.
Thank you.
Yes. Next, we're going to.
Thank you for having me. And I'm really grateful to the audience for being so participative and engaged. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Next week on Tuesday, we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. And on Thursday, the power of our pets. And what I find in these lunch and learns is that it doesn't matter what the topic. I learn a different perspective on positive psychology tools, and everything gives me something, some little takeaway that I can use either in my day immediately or in my life long term. So thank you. Many blessings to everyone. Namaste.
Namaste.
Take care, you guys. Have an amazing day.
Take care. Love to all. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.